Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I brought with me today both of the Melody Beatty meditation books, so I thought that we would look in here and see what they have to say to us today. Okay, today is October 15th. I jumped right to the end of November. No, we don't need to rush the year. I feel like October is going by so quick. We are what are we, 2 weeks out from Halloween? Let me look at the calendar. Yeah, we're 2.5 weeks away from Halloween. It feels like it is just blowing by, doesn't it? The October is just blowing by like the wind. Okay, October 15th, letting go of chaos. Oh, that might be tomorrow's is being honest with ourselves. That's a good one. And then controlling versus trust. That was yesterday's. That might be a good one. Let me look in Journey to the Heart really quick. October 15th. Discover the power of vulnerability. Clear out the clutter. You are on time. Trust yourself to know what's right. You know what? I want to read about... Let's read Discover the Power of Vulnerability in the Journey to the Heart. October 15th, discover the power of vulnerability. A new kind of power will emerge from vulnerability. The more honest we are with ourselves about how we feel and what we really think, the more power we will have. We may have once thought that being powerful meant not giving in to what we felt, what we thought, or who we really were. But that attitude didn't garner power for us. It caused life, the universe, us to continue creating situations that would help open our hearts, help us to feel, help us learn the lesson of vulnerability. The sooner we became honest with ourselves, the sooner we can be honest with others. The sooner we can become honest with ourselves, the more quickly we'll grow and move on to a new place. Become vulnerable, at least with yourself. Be honest about what you think and how you feel. Write it, speak it, feel it, release it. Then you will know where to go, when to go. What you are to do next will emerge naturally, quietly, and clearly. Try being absolutely honest. Reveal your most private feelings to yourself. It's a new kind of power, a different kind of power. It's a spiritual power, the power of opening the heart. You know, this is a really important meditation and something that I have been learning for years and continue to learn. And I think I do a better job of it than I did last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think today, with having the very small circle that I have, it makes it a lot easier to be vulnerable with the people around me, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Being vulnerable with my own feelings and then being able to be vulnerable with other people allows me to grow, because it means that I don't have to put on a mask for other people. You know, I can remember years ago when people would ask me how I'm doing, and I would say, I'm fine. I can remember coming back and when I started going to meetings again after several years of not going to meetings. And I remember I would sit in meetings and I was just I just felt like I was dying inside. I was miserable. I was sad. I was lonely. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And I just was lost. It wasn't like I came right back in and everything was fixed. And there was this woman that I knew, and I would see her at meetings every single day. I went to the noon meeting every single day. And I would see her and she'd say, "How are you doing today?" And I'd be like, "I'm fine. How are you?" And whatever. And then I was listening to the speaker lead. And a speaker lead is when somebody shares their story and they, tell their story of what it was like for them, what happened, and what it's like now. And I was listening to it, you can find them online and stuff. And this woman was talking about how, very similar, she was I was miserable inside and I just was lonely and sad. And she was every single day, somebody would come up to her and be like, "How are you doing?" She said, I was fine. She's one day she was "I'm not doing that anymore." And so that she was the next time the person asked her, she was "I'm not doing very well." And when I heard that, at that moment, I decided the next time I see her and she asks me, because she would ask me every single day. And I was the next time she asks me, I'm going to be honest with her, because I was able to be honest with myself inside, but I wasn't saying it to my husband. I wasn't saying it to anybody that I knew, even my best friend. I wasn't saying, "I'm not doing very well. I'm really struggling." That was really hard for me to say. And so when I saw her, I'll never forget, it was after this noon meeting and she came up to me and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I love this woman, and you know, whenever I see her today, which is not very often, but she always says to me, I know I don't cuss on this channel very often, but she always goes, I fucking love you, Peter Monn. And she's somebody that makes me feel special whenever I see her. And I remember I went up to her and she came up to me and she said, how are you doing? I said, you know, I'm not doing very well. And she's like, well, let's go talk. And I told her, I said, I haven't been doing very well for a while. And, you know, I explained that I'd heard this lead to her and whatever. And it just kind of started to change things for me, because being able to be honest with her allowed me to like be honest with my husband and be honest with my friend. And the more that I opened up to people, what I realized was I didn't have to be ashamed. I didn't have to be embarrassed. I didn't have to keep it a secret that I wasn't doing okay. And what I heard from other people was that there were a lot of people that weren't doing okay. And so then we started sharing with each other, and me being vulnerable with them or them being vulnerable with me was a shared experience. Today, when I'm going through something, that's how I get through something today. And that is the power of a 12-step program, is one addict sharing with another addict, or one alcoholic sharing with another alcoholic what they're going through. And I was taught that at 22 and a half years old. And then I got scared of doing that, because I felt like what you thought of me was more important than what I thought of me. I thought that what the world's perception of me, if the world's perception was I'm okay, Peter's doing okay, he's holding it together, that was more important than if I was actually doing okay. And to be honest with you, this isn't just about recovery. I have had people that I knew that I was close to that have died in the rooms of recovery, people that weren't even addicts and alcoholics that died outside the rooms of recovery because they were so suffering and so miserable and they wouldn't talk to anybody, or they didn't know how to talk to people, or we don't teach that language. So I was at a point where I was like, I don't know what else to do but start opening up to people. And so then I did, and I got real honest with myself. I'm a believer that each of us knows what our own stuff is. I believe we know what issues we need to work on. I believe we know what's holding us back from our dreams. I believe each of us knows what we're struggling with. If you put the lasso of truth around me and you go, what is going on with you today? I can tell you. I know what's going on with me today. Some days I put it on the back burner because I just don't want to deal with it. Some days I don't want to talk about it. Some days it's out of sight, out of mind. I just don't want to deal with it. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't. That's usually when I need to. That's usually when I need to pick up the phone and be like, like my best friend and I will say to each other all the time, can I vent to you? She'll say it to me, I'll say it to her, and I'll be like, yeah. She'll be like, do you have a couple minutes? I'll be like, absolutely. You know, I'm better after I do that. I am better once I get it out. Or then I'll take it to my therapist. You know, I have therapy tomorrow. You know, I don't have a lot this week, but I've got a few things written down that I want to take to him and just get his spin on it. It's a sounding board. Therapy to me is a sounding board. And so the more vulnerable I allowed myself to be with my own feelings, because I realized I didn't have to keep up this perception of what perfection looked like. I think I grew up with this idea that you have to look a certain way. You know, growing up in an alcoholic home, it was like secret keeping and we have to look a certain way. And I don't know, it's like carrying this water balloon around on top of your head, and you're so afraid that if this water balloon pops and it's going to be a mess everywhere. I just let the water balloon pop. Just let it all be a mess. You know, I have grown so much from the messes in my life, and you know, and working through the mess and cleaning up the mess and learning about why the mess happened to begin with, I think is why I am where I'm at today and why I have the relationships that I have. But for so long, I was so afraid of the water balloon popping and what would happen afterwards and all the water everywhere. And what was I going to do with that water? What was I going to do? You know, when really what the fear was I didn't know my life without trying to do the balancing act of keeping the water balloon in place. I didn't know what it was like to just let the water balloon burst everywhere and just let the chips fall where they may and deal with them afterwards. Now that I know that, what I know is it's painful, but in the long run, it is more valuable to just let the mess happen and deal with it and work through it and work through my feelings and work through my emotions and share those things with my husband, my best friend, my sponsor, my therapist, other people in my life. Let them share it with me. It develops stronger relationships. It develops more loyal relationships. My relationships that I have in my life, from my family to my friends to my sponsor to my therapist, we talk about real shit. We talk about really important stuff. Not all the time. We laugh. We talk about movies and TV shows too. But we talk about real stuff because that stuff is important. And I don't want to wait till the end of my life to look back and then be like, I want to have those important conversations now. I have them now because I never know when that moment's going to come. And so me being vulnerable with myself and the people around me, and to live my, whatever that is for the moment, my most authentic self. This is where I'm at today. This is how I feel. This is how I'm doing. When I do that, it allows me to enjoy my life more, because there's no facade you have to put on. That's tiring. That's exhausting. And for all of us, there's situations where we have to do that. For a lot of you, it's work. I work at home. I'm with my dogs. I don't have to do that. For a lot of us, we have to do that. If I go to out somewhere to a dinner or to a wedding and somebody says to me how are you doing today? I'm not going to look at them and just ruin their dinner and go, well, I feel like shit today and I don't even want to be here. I'm not going to say that and ruin a dinner. I'll be like, I'm good today. How are you? I can make it through a dinner. I can suit up and show up. I don't have to be that authentic. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to be that authentic to ruin somebody's good time. But I can say to my husband before we go there, I'm struggling today. I'm not doing great. I can make it through this, and I want to be here because I want to be with you, but I'm not doing that great today, so I might need a moment here or there. That's how I can be vulnerable in that moment and still suit up and show up, and then process it with somebody afterwards, But anyway, it's only enriched my life. I feel like for a long time, and I still care what people think about me. I'm not that person that says, I don't care what people think about me. I still care what people think about me. I still want people to like me. I think we all want that to some degree, I wish I was the person that could get to the point where I thought, I don't care what a single person out there thinks about me, but I do. I care what my husband thinks about me. I want him to think good things of me. I care what my dad and my stepmom, my cousin, my best friend, my sponsor, my friends in my life. I do care what they think. I care what a lot of you think about me out there, and I care about what a lot of other people think about me. You know what I mean? And in all honesty, I think that caring about it sometimes leads me in the right direction. It leads me to better choices sometimes, because I think, well, no, how would that look? But I also don't want to live under this. Have you ever met the person that's always kind of hi, how are you? And you feel like you've never had an authentic moment with them ever. You don't really even know them, even though you've known them for 10 years. It's every time you see them, they're just on. They're on. And you're like, do they ever just break for a second and are like, man, I'm having a bad day? That's a vulnerable moment just to say that to somebody. Even if it's just, somebody at the grocery store, are you having a good day today? I'm really not, But it's only enriched my life. I think at first when I started doing it, it was a lot. It was I would do it all the time. Now it's balanced out, now I know, and I will say this too, because I know that I have safe spaces, and safe spaces for me are people that I can talk to. Now that I know that I have safe spaces and safe people to talk to, I don't feel some things that happen to me, I'm just let it go. It's not that important to talk about. I don't need to talk about all of it today, Anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.